Hey guys, it's Agent M here, also known as Pastor Mallory, the children's pastor at Northgate Wesleyan Church, and we are back again. I have enjoyed all of our studies to get into the truth, and I hope we continue to do this as we move on into the days to come. However, I do want to make a note. I am planning something for November. I think we're going to change things up, so you guys be prepared for that. Today, we're going to debrief on Daniel. We just debriefed on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and there's some similar ties since they were pulled to Babylon together, but there are also some many differences because the majority of the book of Daniel is about Daniel. So we have quite a bit more to cover with him than we did the other three characters, or as I like to say, the three amigos. First, let's get to what the little agents out there can be doing. I have here a challenge for them. Since the most well-known part of Daniel's story is the lion's den, I am challenging the littles to draw a picture of the lion's den. However, I want them to go outside and grab different materials to help make their picture. Here is mine. I use leaves to help create the manes of the lions. So there it is. There's my interesting drawing of the lions. That's my challenge to the littles, to create what they think it looked like in the lion's den. The littles also play an important role in searching out the truth because God can even speak through them, which is pretty cool. So with that covered, let's move on to our 3 points that we're going to cover for Daniel. The first point is that Daniel was, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, favored by God. So he was young, he was handsome, he was knowledgeable and wise, and learned really quickly. So he also went through the 3 years of training, was able to serve the king. Now there's a little bit of difference between Daniel and the three amigos because Daniel was also given the ability to understand visions and dreams, which is a good portion of what we find in the book of Daniel. Him either interpreting a dream or having his own visions. So we'll get to that a little later. Because in our second point, I want to talk about over the span of Daniel's life, he served many kings, not just one. The first king that it kind of talks about is King Nebuchadnezzar, who has a very interesting story. I don't know if you paid attention when you were reading, but King Nebuchadnezzar first has a dream that he doesn't tell anybody about, and he expects them to tell him what the dream was about without ever hearing it. Well, Daniel says, bring me to him. And so he's taken to the king and he's like, it's not I who am able to do this. It is only by God that I'm able to tell you what this dream is about. So he explains to him what the dream is about. And Nebuchadnezzar then understands that Daniel's God is the true God. And so he honors Daniel, gives him authority over many things in Babylon. But that's not where it ends with Nebuchadnezzar, because the next thing we hear about him is that he has another dream, and Daniel's a little frightened to tell him about it. It's not a very good thing that's going to happen to you, he says, because you have not fully bowed down to God and made him your sovereign Lord. You're going to end up kind of acting like an animal and going and eating grass like the ox. You're going to live like an animal out there. Well, Nebuchadnezzar didn't really listen to this, and so God made it happen. He did go a little crazy, left the palace, acted like an animal for a while, and eventually his mind came back to him and he realized exactly who God was, and he chose from that point on to his death, it says, to worship the one true God. That's kind of how the story keeps going. Daniel interprets dreams for different kings as they come along and mostly keeps favor. Unfortunately, under one of the kings, some of the other wise men and magicians did not like the authority that Daniel had. And so they plotted a plan to get rid of him. So they had the king come up with this decree where, hey, have everybody during this time period worship only you, and they can't worship any other gods except for you because you are the mightiest. So the king decides to do this. Well, Daniel is not going to worship the king. He worships the one true God, and so he's caught Not that he was really hiding it, because that is who he is. And he was taken in, and the king has to follow through with the decree that he made, even though it kind of reads like he's kind of sad that this is going to happen to Daniel, but he made the law, and the law said if you didn't follow through, you'd be thrown into a lion's den. So that's what happened. He's thrown into a lion's den. Now, this isn't just your ordinary lion's den. Now, that would be scary all on its own. But they kind of starve these animals. So they're pretty hungry. They're super hungry lions. And they threw Daniel into that lion's den. And they never even touched him. They ignored him. Like he wasn't even in there at all. Eventually, enough time had passed. The king pulls him out, sees that he is favored by his God, and that his God is a powerful, almighty God. And so he's once again given authority and power over the land, which just shows you how much God is trying to speak through Daniel's life. So that then brings us to our third and final point, which is he has his own visions that he interprets along the way. It's kind of the second half of the book of Daniel, is him having these weird dreams and visions where he's being introduced to creatures and to God and even to the Son of Man. So he's going through, and he's really about how these 4 kingdoms are going to come, and then the 5th kingdom is going to come and reside over those 4 kingdoms. So it's basically kind of foretelling of the future, saying that there are going to be some nations that rise up, some kingdoms that rise up that are going to be wicked, and all of them are going to fall. And then there's going to be this 5th one, and this is where he sees the Son of Man, which is a description of Jesus, and it's in chapter 7, and I'm actually going to read that one passage for us. Chapter 7, verse 13. In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. My friends, that is talking about Jesus. That Jesus is going to come and establish his kingdom, and that's the kind of kingdom that we're going to live in. In fact, if you are a believer in Jesus, that's the kingdom that you live in right now, which is the good news, my friend. That's why the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are the good news, because they're telling us about Jesus and his kingdom that he brought to us. So that's all I have time to debrief on Daniel. I hope you learned some new things that you didn't know before, and that you are continuing to search out the truth, because maybe there's more in Daniel that I didn't even see. Next, we're going to talk about Jonah, which I usually at this point would say stay to the end so you can see the verses I want you to look up, but I actually am just going to tell you right now. Read all of Jonah. It's a fascinating story, and there's no reason not to read the 4 chapters. You need to get the whole story in to know what the truth is inside that story. So, take a look at it, study it, and if you have an opportunity to communicate what you find, please share it with me, because I need your insights and the truth so we can keep moving forward. And I always have to add, if you are new to watching these videos and you too have profile documents on these characters that we've been talking about, I have them all in this kind of format, and if you message me in this email, then I will make sure that you get every profile document that we've already worked on and any that we have in the future. My hope is we continue to add to our numbers of agents searching out the truth. Well, there we go, agents. Over and out. I will see you on Monday when we talk about Jonah.